All right, welcome everyone. My name is Janelle Frost, and I will be the presenter today for this Lunch and Learn. I'm the Executive Director for Michigan Hands and Voices, and I'm also the coordinator for our ASTRA, or Advocacy Support and Training Program. I do have Tabby Bellhorn on with us as well. She's the Executive Director of Ohio Hands and Voices and also the ASTRA Advocacy Support and Training Coordinator. So we work closely together, and she will be there to help answer any questions in the chat box today. All right, so we have a lot of information to go through today, and I ask that you just hold those questions till the end of the during our discussion time, or put them in the chat box. All right, so here we go. So today we're going to be going over the IEP 504 checklist that Hands and Voices has to offer for anyone. You can get this checklist on their website. I have it here so you can see what it looks like. But for today's purposes, we're going to zoom in each section and go over this checklist. I want to advise everyone that this is a checklist and a guide. It's not to be used to just check every single one of them. As parents, it's very important that you understand that for every need that you identify your child having, that you have background information to support that. So we don't want this to be used in the wrong manner. We want to respect our educators and the professionals that work with our children and make sure that we're being reasonable with our asks. So you can find that on the website, and we're going to go through each one individual. All right, so I wanted to point out the very top of this document. It does list the IDEA special factors with that number where you can see that arrow pointing to it. I'm going to have Tony put the link to IDEA special factors. This is what makes a difference for our children that are deaf and hard of hearing within the educational process, and list those things that special education administrators or special education educators may not always have this information because it is specific to deaf and hard of hearing. And we do know that a lot of our kiddos are mainstreamed, and this is just a great document to help back up the information that we're going to be using today. All right, so we're going to start out with the first box, which is personal and assistive hearing technology accommodations. This is going to look quite different with online or in-person learning due to some extra barriers that we have to go through with regards to COVID. So you're going to want to go through, if you have this checklist, and just check the things that your child needs. Do they have hearing aids? Do they have cochlear implant, a bone-anchored or tactile device? Do they use personal hearing assisted technology, often referred to as HAT? This is your FM systems or mic systems. Also may use it without a personal hearing instrument, or your child may use classroom sound distribution. I want to note that due to COVID, there may be some extra things that we need to note in here, such as sanitizing of equipment, whether it's the hearing aid or FM. Some of our kiddos are used to utilizing school equipment, so we may need to add some type of information in the IEP or 504 regarding how is this going to stay sanitized during COVID time, during this pandemic. All right, one of the big notes I think of when thinking of our kiddos that are utilizing the oral approach is making sure that whatever form of education they're doing, whether virtual, online, or in person, due to all the extra barriers, that we are looking into utilizing the functioning listening evaluations. Now that can be obtained through your educational audiologist, or some of you may also have other individuals that would be in charge of this, like a teacher consultant, the deaf and hard of hearing teacher. So this would be a great tool to bring up to the school with regards to, within the first couple days, within the first weeks, within the first month, having these functioning listening evaluations done to monitor this whole new situation that we are in. So I'm going to have Tony put down where you can find that with regards to Michigan. Michigan Department of Ed Low Incident Outreach has an assessment guideline. In there, they have a wonderful list of functioning listening evals that you can have your school district contact them for that, or you can provide it yourself. So once you see that link, if you want to copy and paste, that would be very relevant. Also, and I don't know if I have had the information on hand for Tony to put out, but if you're going to MDE LIO's website, which is our Michigan Department of Ed Low Incident Outreach website, if you get that functioning listening eval, you might want to check out the Return to Learn document that they have as well, and hopefully Tony can throw that into the links when she finds it. It's a great document that just kind of provides some more questions to ask your team. All right, we're going to move on. Assistive technology accommodations. So this is the use of video phone or text phone. I want to point out that as we are moving to some different type of learning, you may need to mention to your school if your child is using their phone for captioning. We have some great captioning apps now like Live Transcribe or Ava, and I know that most schools have a policy that they are not able to use their phones during the school day, but you may want to talk to the team if your child is using that for accessibility purposes. Also, this is a great time to bring up any type of devices that your student is going to be using. Make sure that it's compatible with their hearing technology. So, getting the proper equipment such as a computer or iPad that matches up. I know I've had some families that this has been an issue. So they've needed to contact their districts and get some different equipment. So, these are things to think about with the change in our type of education going online or even in person with the use of more barriers. A student might need something right at the desk to help with their education, being if there's more distancing being in place and they're having a hard time of having access. Another thing to think about is if you're at home and internet connectability, you may need to ask your district to help with that, maybe a mobile hotspot or whatever it is in order for your child to have access to the education if you don't have a good connection. So that can be done now. I know schools are aware of that, and Michigan Department of Ed has some specific help that they can give to you. All right, so another thing is it may be a good idea to get the phone contact for your school district's IT person. This way you can, you don't have to be bugging that teacher who is really having a lot of extra work to do, making sure your child has access. But if you have that phone contact, it may be a way of, quickly resolving a situation that you may have with any connectability issues. All right, we're going to move on to communication and accommodations. All right, so prior seating arrangement is going to be real important during this time, especially with social distancing. This is a great little checkbox to kind of figure out what is going to be the priority for your child. Number 2, ensure students' attention prior to speaking. Another big one for our students, especially if with all these extra barriers online for virtual school, if your student is in a class discussion, making sure to have a communication policy with with the teacher prior that would be followed by the entire classroom and not be specific to your child. But identifies a way of making sure that the child knows who's speaking. So take for instance, when we do any type of online webinar or discussion where we have several different individuals on, we ask that before the person speaks, we ask them, get our attention by raising the hand and then to announce yourself. This helps with making sure that that person that's utilizing maybe an interpreter or closed captioning to really understand who is speaking. This is helpful not only for the child that's deaf or hard of hearing, but also the rest of the class. A lot of our students are, going to a new type of placement, and they may not know all the kids in the class. So it really does help to have everybody get to know one another and understand who it is that is speaking at that time. So I think, excuse me, a communication plan at this point would be really good. All right, the third box, this was brought up by several of my own advocates regarding reducing auditory distraction or background noises. We know that some public entities are using what they call high velocity fans, and that does add some more noise to the background. Those fans are going to be used to help with circulation of air within buildings. So if your school district is going to be using this, you may want to discuss where's going to be the best seating for your child, how they're going to get away with this, if there's how they're going to have access, if not, thinking about alternatives for the student, whether it's a different classroom or the possibility of turning down that fan, whatever it is that allows for access for your child, but also realizing that this is a pandemic and taking in consideration the safety of the students and the educators within that classroom. So we're going to want to reduce visual distractions. How are we going to do that now with masks and shields and some extra barriers? So it really is very individual. We're going to have to find out what works best for your child, really looking into and practicing with different masks. Clear masks aren't always, we think that might be the answer, but really try it out with your child. If your child's using mics, make sure we're trying that out, and we're asking the school district to help in that functioning listening eval, again, mentioning that and seeing what is working, what is not, and by all means going to the student always and asking what their opinion, and not just using our own observations as parents or educators, but using their information. I want to point out, and I know Tony can throw this into the chat box, a MOOC study that kind of goes over the information a little bit more in detail of what they found out to be most appropriate in different situations. But again, your child's specific. But if you need more information, you can go to that. And there is also another study by Tina Childress, and I don't think I have that on the link, but if you need some more, you can always contact me for that. All right, so you're going to allow students time to locate the speaker in a small or large group. Remember, that's assuring the attention prior to speaking, our communication plan. Enhanced speech reading conditions, or avoiding hands in front of the face, mustache is well trimmed. Well, here we go. Here's the mask and shield again. How can we enhance speech reading if your child does need it? Present information in simple, structured, sequential manner if your child needs. Enunciate speech clearly. Allow for extra time for processing information. I think this is going to be a key for a lot of our students now. Repeat, all right, whoops, I'm sorry, go back. Repeat or rephrase information when necessary. I know that was a huge one for my son, so maybe some of you have data to back that up if you need. Frequently check for understanding. I think that this is also going to be a big one that we're going to have to think about. How is the teacher going to do that if the child is going virtual? You know, can you have a special code, or maybe, you know, we work on the child's advocacy skills and them, you know, putting in the chat box to the teacher privately that they didn't understand something. Can you repeat that? It could be used in a way for all of the students, actually, and a great way of making sure that all of our students are advocating for themselves. Use speech to text software. We do have a lot of great speech to text software out there now. I know some of the favorites are Live Transcribe. You might want to take a look at that. Otter, Teams, but a lot of school districts are going and using Google Meets for their choice of online, which does have speech to text software so they can get closed captioning online. So make sure that your student, if they do need that is available for them. Providing interpreter, either ASL, signed English, cute speech, or oral, making sure that the student does have that option if they're going online, and make sure that it is accessible. I know with my son, he was required in the spring to get an interpreter for his classes. So if, you know, that does want to, or that's something that you may want to talk to the school. Is the interpreter going to be on every class that the child is supposed to be on, or do they have to be notified prior? You know, having that understanding beforehand will be very beneficial. We would not want our students to, you know, get to an online Zoom class and then an interpreter not be available. All right, we're going to move on to instructional accommodations. And I cannot read the top one, so I'm sorry. We might have to come back. But I got visual overheads, charts, vocabulary lists, lectures, or outlines. That might be something that's needed. Interactive whiteboard, classroom captioning. We did talk a little bit about that, but I want to just note that now's a great time. Districts are aware of closed captioning being a high priority for all kids. So it's a great time to get with your district about providing that for your student and seeing which type of captioning is working best. Captioning and scripts for television, videos, or movies, highly important for a lot of our children to have those prior, and working that out with the school. Buddy system for notes, extra explanations or directions if needed. Again, check for understanding of information. Again, we really want to make sure that the student is understanding what information is coming at them, and simply not just listening or watching. You know, we want to know that they are truly getting that understanding. Downtime, break from listening or watching, that visual breaks, to me, I think are going to be something we have to watch with students going to online or virtual. Having to follow a teacher via remotely may be more difficult. It may be a strain on their eyes, especially if they are very visual. So, you know, figuring out how long of a period of time it is that they need breaks. If they have a code word for their teacher that they're gonna just take a break for a minute while the teacher's doing a discussion, and put in the chat box, you know, whether it's I need to go get a drink of water, or I need a visual break, or, you know, whatever specific to your child. But, you know, being cognizant of this and making sure that we're aware that being on Zoom is much different than being in person or being on a Google Meet or whatever. And it is taxing to our bodies. So giving those hearing breaks, listening breaks, and watching breaks is going to be important. They may need extra time to complete assignments, step-by-step direction, interpreting again. That may be an accommodation that's needed, either ASL, sign English, cued speech, or oral, making sure that, specifically to your child, that they get the correct interpreting. Speech-to-text software, tutoring, note-taking, and direct instruction. Another thing during this time, you may want to ask for the option to rewatch a recording. How long will that be available? Some of our children, I know my son in particular, he often would ask to be able to go back and watch something again and take his time through it. I want to note that for class discussions, you may want to talk to your school district on their policies and whether that they can have that recording with other students being in that recording, and how safe is that video from getting out into the wrong hands. So, making sure that everybody's open on the school policies and understanding everyone's privacy as well. All right, so now we're on to physical environmental accommodations. Noise, reverberation reduction, providing carpet and other sound absorption materials, thinking about, again, any plastic barriers that we're putting out, that we are aware of that, and that our educational audiologists are doing, and even speech therapists are doing those necessary assessments to make sure to eliminate as much of that noise as possible. Again, the velocity fans, are they going to be using them? Special lighting, I think that this is going to be critical, that if they're going online, that the teacher is well lit as the teacher is teaching. If the teacher is recording during an actual in-person class, they may be utilizing some mask or the shield, and also maybe recording at a distance. So, helping your student to go over and really keep an eye on those specific things that are happening, and if it's working or not working for your child, and asking to modify that a bit. So thinking about the social distancing and at all times making sure that your child has accessibility to the education. Flashing fire alarms or smoke detectors may be something that you need to request. All right, we're going to move on to extracurricular or curricular modifications, the actual curriculum. Modified reading assignments may be needed, modified written assignments, extra practice, pre-teach, teach, post-teach vocabulary concepts, that's a common thing to ask. Strategies to adapt the instruction to accommodate reduced auditory access or visual access. Supplemental material to reinforce concepts of curriculum, alternative curriculum if needed, and expanded core curriculum, which I'm going to have Tony put in the chat box, the Iowa core curriculum link. I think I did include that. It's a awesome resource for us to utilize that talks about this expanded core curriculum, which is designed specifically for deaf and hard of hearing students. It's looking at the regular public curriculum and saying, what is it specific to the student that's deaf or hard of hearing that would be needed in addition in order for them to be successful once they leave school. So, looking at advocacy, self-determination, their auditory needs, if they're accessing oral education, any assisted technology, the communication pragmatic language, deaf studies, disability rights, their functional skills, family education, how are we incorporating ASL sign language or any other type of communication practices with the family, social emotional skills, and transition planning. So this curriculum looks beyond the traditional curriculum and is, I think, something that parents should be aware of. So hopefully Tony put in that link for the Iowa core curriculum. All right, so we're going to move on. I know we're blasting through this, so hold on, we're almost done. Evaluation, accommodations, and modifications. You might want to reduce quantity of tests, alternate tests or methods, reading assistance with tests for clarification, time may need it, or extra time may be needed, maybe special seating. I think a big one now will be with those state testings. How is your child going to access those state testings, whether it is going to be online or virtual? And you can actually ask for a practice test and work on making sure that your student has accessibility, or they know where that captioning button is, or if they do need special headphones, if they need a special device to be able to see an interpreter if needed. So, just practicing beforehand. All right, our very last box is other needs and special considerations. Now might be a great time to talk about counseling with, what is available from your school district. What does your child need at this point in time? I know that anxiety levels are up, so this may be one of those boxes we need to check. Any family support and training that may be needed. So, looking at that, sign language instruction for family members, deaf and hard of hearing peers. I am going to have Tony throw in Sign on Connect as one of the links that can help families connect with a deaf individual online, and also has an option for, it's called Friends Like Me. If your child is needing to connect with other individuals like them, it's a great opportunity to do that. And this is something that you can request from the school district if your child has a need for connecting with a peer or a role model. You can request that from your district, and I have many instances of those districts paying for that resource. Recreational social opportunities, now we're going to have to get creative. And the last one here, transition services. I want to note that our state transition services are available online. I don't know what's available via Ohio, but I'm guessing they probably have done it as well. So you can contact, ours is called MRS, Michigan Rehabilitative Services, for those students that are at that age of transition, which is anywhere from 14 years old to 16, when we're starting to transition into a new phase of life. They have some really great online programs available, so make sure to check them out. All right, so additional resources. We have so much to share with you, so that throughout the summer, many different organizations have been working on. Hands and Voices has a wonderful COVID page with tons of documents for you to check out. Our own Michigan Hands and Voices Astra page has some great links in there, and a lot of the stuff that I shared today, you can go on there and get that from there. Abby, who is on the call or on with us today, she had written a letter to parents and educators. I wanted to throw that link in there. It's a wonderful resource, and I'm going to have Tony put that in the chat box as well. And National Association of the Deaf, their position statement is really good information regarding the rules and laws, that still apply for our students today. So I like their document. It's a really good read. All right, so final tips. Again, this checklist is used as a guide. Only use what you have data to back up the need of your child. We, again, don't want to bring this list of 50 things to our school district, but definitely highlight your priorities and the need of your child. Educators are going to need parent input more than ever at this time. So really making sure that we're writing down, journaling, having it in written form is going to be beneficial not only for you, but for them, and it's always what we suggest. Write it down. If it's not written down, then it's possibly hearsay. All right, so another point, IDA, 504, and ADA, these are all the laws that protect your student and your rights as a parent. They still apply. So making sure to look up those rules and laws as needed to help make sure that your student has access. All right, and final note, we are all in this together, you know, really making sure to reach out to us, to Michigan Hands and Voices, Ohio Hands and Voices, for your needs. We are constantly, you know, getting on together and working on this because it's a lot of information to take in. So if you're feeling overwhelmed and you're having a hard time finding stuff, please just contact us. We want to try and help with anxiety levels and in the all the stuff that's coming at us today. So I wanted to pass on, we are doing a question and answer session the first Monday of every month. It's a great opportunity for you to get on and just find out what's going on with other families across our state, but also we're connecting with a couple other regional states close to us, and you know, really helping one another to find those answers. All right, so contact us at Michigan Hands and Voices if needed, at our Gmail Gmail page there, and I'm sorry, the website and our email, and there's Ohio's email and website. You can always reach myself or Tabby through those links. All right, thank you for joining today. I'm going to have Tabby stop the recording now, and I'm going to open up. I'm gonna